Good morning or possibly afternoon. It's morning for me right now. I hope the lighting's not too bad, but this is about as good as it gets because once I get to school, there's just too many distractions and interruptions within my classroom. So I hope this works. My name is Chrissy Tanner. I am currently a third grade elementary school teacher. I am a somewhat unique BYU alumni. I went to the university in my 30s. In fact, I started there at 30 years of age. It took me 5-6 years to get through the program because I was raising 3 teenage sons at the time. My husband has worked for the Y for 27 years, so we are definitely big Cougar fans. So hopefully some of that just doesn't come off as some biases, but I do love BYU. So I've been teaching 10 years. So throughout this 10 years, I've had the opportunity since going through the program myself to mentor practicum students and student teachers. And recently, while having that interaction, I had Kristen Betts come through the walls of my classroom, and I was telling her how much I love having these students. And she asked me if I would be willing to share some of my thoughts and the reasons behind that. So I feel like as I've thought about this and really tried to understand, like, why do I care so much about this and enjoyed it? And yeah, it's come with its like sometimes ups and downs, but overall, like, that's where I stand, that I do thoroughly love having them. So I've come to the reasons of why. And I think that to start, you have to break it off into like 3 groups, which is pretty straightforward, which is the BYU and student teachers themselves, or practicum students, if you may, or the teacher. So that would be myself, any of the mentor teachers, and the students within the walls of the classrooms. So to start off with, I think we can agree that there is no substitute for coming into a real life classroom setting where it's not staged. We know that day to day can bring its struggles, and to give BYU students the experience within that is we just can't create that any other way until they go into their own classroom themselves, which is why I feel like this is so beneficial that they have this opportunity before doing so. As we know, teaching is an art. I think that in my lifetime, I will never master it entirely. And BYU students get the opportunity to refine their own craft by experimenting with the pedagogical theories that they've learned at the Y. And then they can come in and develop some classroom management skills, plan and execute lessons, whether direct, inquiry-based, collaborative, project-based, whatever that they want to work with or practice with, they get that opportunity. We currently have adopted the CKLA program, which is a nationally recognized program. And so they also get the opportunity to work with that and then have that on their resume as something that they've actually done and gone through. They can be given an entire unit if a mentor teacher feels so. I personally have done that and just handed it and said, this will be one of the best skills that you will learn, because so many school districts across the country use that program. They also get to work with the individual students and the diversity that brings, the backgrounds and the different learning styles, and figuring out how that looks and how that works. They get to assess the student learning by receiving and implementing feedback and working with utilizing different assessments. So whether that's formative, informative, they help with SEPs in whatever regard that a mentor teacher feels like that they can give them that, and or watch and observe what that looks like. I've done that a lot, where I'm just like, just kind of be here and be a part of this so that you understand what it looks like before you just are thrown into doing it in your own classroom. So beyond all these skill buildings, I've also enjoyed building professional relationships with these students. and helping them expand their networks. It gives them an opportunity to be in the field, and therefore, as I can watch them, I've also had my principal, not myself, they've asked, so you can ask a principal to observe you if you are a BYU student, and it just opens up networks. Letters of recommendation, I've wrote lots of those for BYU students, and facilitators, CFAs, like you are opening up avenues that are otherwise, it can be tricky to get into some of this, and that people know you by seeing your teaching in action. You also learn how to do a lot of conflict resolution skills, which I think has been huge since COVID as a teacher, because of the way that students and things went about, and we were navigating that. I realized as a 5th grade teacher, like after a few years, some kids struggled, like they hadn't learned some of this conflict resolution. And so it helps young or new teachers going into the field how to navigate some of that as well. The mentor teacher, so myself, I'm going to speak now on behalf of like my point of view and why I feel like this is beneficial to myself. I've always wished there was enough funding that we could have 2 skilled teachers within the walls of an elementary classroom. I would imagine all teachers would support that, whether you were in secondary or even early childhood. So this is the only way, in my experience, that I've been able to have that, is to have 2 skilled teachers. These BYU students are about ready to like graduate, so they have the skills that are required. And I do feel like BYU does a very good job at getting them ready. So I love sharing my classroom. I think that it is beneficial for all parties involved. And so I love having that load lightened and to have somebody else come in. They not only are they learning, I too benefit and learn from what they have to offer. And so they bring the new research that professors have shared with them and the latest and greatest like studies and things like that. And so I am always open to like, let's experiment. Like this is a classroom that we can like try that out and try these new strategies. And I do love doing that. I recently went to a conference and I've been talking to my student teacher about a professor that has wrote a book, and we are going to be executing some of that after spring break and trying some of those experiments out. So I think it's important, and I think we all agree in the education world that learning is endless and that it continues, and that if you can keep that mindset that I'm learning from them a lot, and things that they've learned in other practicum classes or things or other teachers within the district, and then they come and I'm like, I love that, and then I can use it in my own classroom so that I don't get stuck in these ruts and mundane daily things that, to be real and honest, like is very easy to do because it's just what we get used to, and change sometimes can be challenging. So I do enjoy learning from them as well. And the other big thing that I actually do feel like benefits is students. So they also get tired of listening to me all day, every day. And so to have somebody new come in livens them up. It makes them excited, just changes things up. If you've sat in the walls of a classroom, which if you're BYU students listening to this, you know what that feels like day in and day out and all day. And I had to sit all last week while my student teacher was soloing, and then went to that conference for a couple of days. And by the end of the week, I really had a new insight of like, this just sitting and like taking in information all day, every day can be very challenging. And so to bring in a new person into my classroom really does change the environment for my classroom. And my students always, I see this across the board, work really hard and are excited again, kind of like it feels like beginning of the school year, and willing to engage and are motivated. And so I love seeing that when we bring BYU students in. Also, they're from BYU, so the kids absolutely think that's so cool. So, for all these reasons and more, I truly do love the BYU partnership. It's a mutually beneficial relationship where everyone benefits, and my connection to BYU runs deep. And so, I do love paying it forward and sharing the knowledge that I gained, and as I've tried to polish that over the years, and then also likewise gaining that knowledge, new knowledge from these young, vibrant students. So I hope that that enlightens some of you on the partnership program, and that if you are considering it, no matter what role you play in this, the answer from my point of view is yes. It absolutely, in every way, benefits all parties involved, taken with the right mindset. So if you have any more questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Chrissy Tanner. I'm in the Nebo School District, and so I'm at the Orchard Hills Elementary, and I hope that this inspired some of you.